A team made a statement on Thursday, and it was the Buffalo Bills. What? Yeah, man, they're still the kings of the AFC East. We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up? Welcome to the barbershop. Welcome to the new Locked On NFL. This half of Locked On NFL. The first half is Tyler Rowland, the madman, going off early in the morning, giving you a double shot of NFL Espresso. And now it's the middle of the day. We're in the barbershop. We're chilling. Well, we don't really take a whole bunch of things serious. We're glad to have you here on Locked On NFL. Today, I got Matt Williamson with me. We're going to get into all of these things that we have to talk about in just a moment. But first, I got to let you know that we are free and available on all platforms. Make sure you go over to the Locked On NFL YouTube page, and then check us out wherever you get your audio podcast as well to make sure you do not miss an episode. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by LinkedIn. That's right. LinkedIn helps you find jobs and the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. We are always your first listen. We thank you for doing that because it is your team every day. My man, Matt Williamson, going to talk some NFL with me today about all the things that happened. Man, it was a good game last night, wasn't
it? For one side, yeah. I mean, it was enjoyable, but man, two things. I mean, Buffalo has had their number for a while now, and I think that they're not that they've created it, but over the last 2 weeks, we've seen a lot of defenses just playing soft and attacking and really coming downhill. And Miami just doesn't have a physical presence. And I didn't like their energy at all. I mean, they're all built for speed, which usually works well early in the season. And then as the weather gets bad, hurts the Dolphins. Well, I don't think they have the physicality and power to hang with, not to hang with the rest of the league, but to get to where they need to be.
Yeah, you're right. And one of the things that I thought they would be able to get over on Buffalo because Buffalo's all banged up. And Buffalo lost a lot of people, Jordan Poyer and all of these guys. Matt Milano's still not he's still banged up. And then they lost on offense. They lost a lot of playmakers. But here's the intriguing thing about this. They have found another way. People get these really, really talented top three quarterbacks, and they think you got to turn it loose. I'm going to show you a difference, and I'm going to even compare it to a team you know very well. But I want to hear from Joe Marino from Locked On Bills first.
Everybody eats. That's the mentality for the Buffalo Bills offense in 2024. But it looks like that extends to the defensive side of the football as well, where despite injuries, including all-pro slot corner Taron Johnson, all-pro linebacker Matt Milano, and team captain Terrell Bernard goes down early in this game, they're able to limit the Miami Dolphins to just 10 points and only 3 points after the first quarter. Guys stepping up for the Bills on defense, whether that's Cam Lewis, Jamarcus Ingram with 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. Balin Spector, a reserve linebacker, making an impact in this football game. Guys are stepping up all over the place for this Buffalo Bills defense as they continue to navigate injuries and showing that doesn't have to always be about Josh Allen willing the team to victory. The Bills can win in a lot of different ways, including leaning on a defense to beat the Dolphins 31-10 and prove that they're still the team to beat in the AFC East.
So here's my takeaway from that. I said the Bills were actually going to lose a stranglehold on the AFC East because of all of the things that they had going on in the offseason and that their window may have closed. When they started letting go free agents, guys that are good, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, and I was sitting there thinking like, you know what? Old GM told me once, you always got to wonder why those guys are free agents. And I assumed that he meant that they had fallen off. He said, no, maybe you don't know what they got in development and the plan that they have. They may have some people, and it's all about balancing structure. They reminded me of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team you're very familiar with when they had Big Ben. People don't remember the young Big Ben, who was agile, mobile, with a big arm. It was basically, everybody always said Cam Newton. I always said Josh Allen reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger. So what did Pittsburgh do? They didn't sit there and let him just throw the ball all around a lot. They came up with a plan where they're going to be balanced. They're going to play defense and get all of these contributions from these players. I don't know if you find that familiar, but it looks like I was wrong about Buffalo.
Yeah, me too. I thought they were definitely taking a step back. I picked the Dolphins to win this game. I thought Miami would torture them. The linebacker safety situation, middle of the field, Waddle and Hill on crossers, that type of stuff. But the back seven, as Marino just said, played really well. I don't think it's a super talented group. I really want to call out the D-line, though. I mean, you mentioned the Steelers. The Bills came here on a joint practice, and I watched them live. And I knew they had a lot invested in their D-line, but seeing them up close was like Oliver and Rousseau and Von Miller's back. Like, that's what's stirring the drink for the Bills. I mean, a four-man rush, a lot of nickel. And I'll be honest, I mean, anyone that's followed my work, whether it's on the Locked On Network or whatever, since they've been good, I mean, the Josh Allen era, I was very critical of the Bills, saying, you guys are built wrong. You need to invest in guards. You play in Buffalo, New York. You don't need to score 40 points. You need Mike Allstott in the backfield. You know what I mean? And I think they've embraced the physicality and who they are now.
Yeah, they really, really did. And they are probably the team to beat now. And I like being wrong about stuff because that's how you grow. You broaden. Yeah. I was wrong, and now they proved me right, and it still comes down to blocking and tackling. Speaking of getting tackled,
boy, is their quarterback good too.
Yeah, man, he's really, really good.
Really good.
Look, dude only has 371 yards in the first 2 weeks, so they're showing you they can win another way. And I think as soon as people get used to that, they're gonna go back to the other way when those receivers grow up. 100%. We got to mention Tua. I got to mention it because it's a very, very serious. I don't want to brush past it. It's been talked about a lot already by the time you hear this podcast. His health is the most important thing. So the Dolphins obviously have a lot of decisions to make, short-term and long-term. However, I'm just worried about him as a human being, making sure that he makes the right decisions for him and his family. We see a lot of teams around the league that are trying to figure it out without a quarterback. One of them is in Green Bay, and they need a win because they're going to play against the Colts this week. Jordan Love is out, but Peter Bukowski says maybe it doesn't adjust their game plan as much as you think.
Do not expect the Packers to play conservatively in this football game. They need to win it. They are not just going to say, hey, Malik Willis, just go 10 of 15 and we'll try and figure out the rest. We'll try and run game and defense our way to the rest. I don't believe that's what they're going to do. In 2021, when they found out in the middle of the week that Jordan Love was going to be the starting quarterback against the Kansas City Chiefs in his NFL debut, he threw the ball 34 times. 34 in a game where it was a 1 or 2 score game, basically the entire football game.
Now, I agree with Peter that they're probably going to still play the way that they normally play, but Malik Willis is probably not what they thought Jordan Love was at the time. The other thing is when you go to Kansas City, you got to score touchdowns. I remember in that game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they had field goal opportunities. They was like, nope, we're going for it on 4th down because they knew field goals wasn't going to beat Kansas City. So a little bit of a difference, but Peter knows that team, and the sentiment is probably the same. Their strength, in my opinion, especially with Josh Jacobs being hurt, their strength is their wide receivers.
Yeah, and I'm not going to fight Peter on it. Maybe they will take that approach. I think they'll lose by 30 if they do. I mean, I think it's a bad idea. I'm not saying what they'll do. I'm just saying if they do that approach, they're in for a very long day because, as you mentioned, this version of Willis compared to that version of Love is night and day. One's a first-round pick that was super promising that they're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers from shortly. The other one you got for a 7th-round pick who got there 2 weeks ago that's hopefully a year away from being a year away. I mean, we referenced before we hit record the Locked On Power Ranks. And I was, before the season, I put the Packers at 6. And I do power ranks of how good are you right this second. I had them at 28. I mean, I think it's that big a difference. I think they're down here in this bottom with Broncos, Titans, Raiders, with Willis as their quarterback.
I do too, man. I never put anything past the team that I do this for Pittsburgh. I give the benefit of the doubt to teams that always seem to find a way to get stuff done. But listen, this is a big, big, big ask of them, especially in that division. They want to get some wins. And speaking of that division, in segment 2, what might be the game of the week for me because I want to see it. I just like matchups. I like two people to just slug it out, right? You know who I am. I know who you are. And the Bucs and the Lions have had some doozies as of late. They play this weekend in a battle of teams that are 1-0, who are probably amongst the most physical teams in the league. Segment 2, we're going to get into that and a little bit more in just a second on Locked On NFL. Today's episode is brought to you and sponsored by LinkedIn. You're starting a small business, you're going to need some help. How do I know that? Because I needed help with all of the things like contracting and making sure you're following all the regulations locally. Sometimes you forget that you actually need people to work for you. That's right. And LinkedIn is the place for you to go because it isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Here's what you got to do, man. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Remember, 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Got to let you know that today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. That's right, man. Y'all know all about FanDuel because I've been telling y'all about FanDuel as long as I can remember. You know why? Because they're America's #1 sports book. We got something different for you right now with FanDuel, too. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5, just $5, and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season game on Sunday afternoon out of market, all of them out of market. You'll be able to watch them all. All you need is a Google account and the current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. If that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all of Sunday, this Sunday, September 15th, pregame money line bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday. That was last night. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. All right. Segment number 2 here on Locked On NFL. As we get ready for all the games this weekend, we're going to preview a couple of intriguing matchups here in segment number 2. Oh, it's a tough man contest, man. It is. If you put him in, I used to say Mike Tomlin. He's gotten a little older. Mike Vrabel isn't a head coach anymore. I think if you put all the coaches in the bag and pull out the 2 toughest ones, they might be in this game right now. Dan Campbell and Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is a big dude. I saw him this summer. I didn't realize he was that stout as a man. Considering he played safety for the team I used to watch when I was a kid up in Washington, but.
Wait, real quick. He was actually our assistant defensive backs coach when I was with the Browns a million years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm a big Todd Bowles fan. Yeah.
You know what? You're not the only person that says that. I saw a guy at the Jaguars facility this summer when they had the joint practices, and it was an executive, and he said Todd Bowles might be the single most impressive guy he's ever talked to in person. And for people to talk about you like that, that really does resonate and mean something. His team plays that way too, man, because they were another team that I thought it's 2 years removed from Brady. They got Baker Mayfield, and then they come out and make the playoffs last year, and then they look good this year. The team they lost to was the Lions. And, they're chewing kneecaps and all of that, and they came out and did not disappoint in the first weekend. These two teams are very, very familiar with each other. I think it might come down to the toughest man on the field, and since Antoine Winfield's hurt, that might be Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I want you to hear what they said about him on the crossover.
As for Amon-Ra, he is one of the best receivers in the NFL, bar none. He is absolutely phenomenal, and he had a bad game. 3 catches for 13 yards. Goff and St. Brown are not going to let that happen again.
No.
So last year against the Bucs in the divisional round, 77 yards and a touchdown. But the 2 games combined, he had 20 receptions for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra was the driving force for the Lions against Tampa. a beaten up secondary, no Antoine Winfield Jr. They have to find a way to contain Amon-Ra St. Brown and force Goff to look in other directions.
Well, good luck trying to contain him with a beat up secondary. You agree that this is a tough game, and how do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, and I love the tough man competition of Ragnow at center versus Villavea too. I mean, that kind of epitomizes what this one's all about. To me, this is much more about the Bucs. Like, I know I'm pretty sure what the lines are. They're a Super Bowl contender. They're one of the top couple teams in the league. But last year, you kind of mentioned it. The Bucs win their division, and we're like, that's cute. It's a terrible division. Somebody had to win it. Then the Eagles go down there, and they look like they're shot because the second half of the season's miserable for them, and they don't even show up. And yeah, the Bucs beat them. That's fine. But then they go and they play Detroit, and they play them tough. And then they looked great last week, and I have my doubts about Baker Mayfield, but I thought he played as well as any quarterback in the league in week 1. They still have Evans. They still have Godwin. I think we like the head coach. They have physicality in the trenches. The Barton addition is going a long way. I mean, he's a plug-and-play center. So I think this is a massive statement game. Are the Bucs legit or not? I still think the Lions win.
That's a great assessment because I absolutely feel the same way. I wouldn't be shocked if I was surprised. This next game, though, I probably would be a little bit surprised because when it's 2 1-0 teams, one team has a new coordinator. I think both of them have new coordinators, actually. But nobody is doubting the Dallas Cowboys after their dominant win last week in Cleveland. Now, the Saints won their first game, and I'm going to let you hear what Ross Jackson said about that, and we'll see if the Saints are the real deal, and that's the question we'll have to answer that right after we hear from Ross.
The New Orleans Saints and Dallas Cowboys both set to try to prove who they truly are in their big Sunday matchup.
Let's talk about the Saints. What's the biggest storyline on offense going into this contest?
Yeah, I think the biggest storyline is, are they one of the best offenses in the NFL? They sure looked like it last week up against the Carolina Panthers. The issue is that was the Carolina Panthers. And so now the big question is how much of it was about how bad the Carolina Panthers are versus how good the New Orleans Saints might have become with new offensive coordinator Clay Kubiak and their new offensive system. One of the things that I've been telling folks for a while here with this conversation is that if you look at what it is that the Saints independently did, not how they did, but what they independently did, which was infuse a lot more. I think it was a jump of over 33% in motion into their offense, infusing. They went from Derek Carr's play action drop back percentage last year was 14.8%. Marcus, in that game against Carolina, it was 40%, 4 to 4-0. So a big leap there and doing something that Derek Carr excels in and all that. And so I tend to try to look at the things that New Orleans actually did that are kind of independent of what the opponent across from them settles or might look like.
You know what? I have to remind myself when I think about Derek Carr because I saw him last year and I didn't really like what I saw. I saw him yelling at people and losing his teammates. The body language to me was a little bit much. I have to remember that he got hurt and they were on their way to winning like 13 games, in Oakland one year. So he has the ability. It's never been about, I remember scouting Fresno State when him and Devontae Adams were in college together. It's never been about his physical ability. I have to give him a little bit of a grace here and say, you know what? This is a little look-see game for me to see just how good, because even though they were playing the Panthers, the Cowboys were playing the Browns, whose offensive line is in shambles right now.
Yeah, and that brings me to the Saints, though. Like Mayfield, I thought Carr played as well as any quarterback in the league in week 1. And I'm not going to try to reference my Steelers too much, but I think the Steelers and Saints upgraded at offensive coordinator more than any two teams in the league. And we saw that in week 1 with New Orleans. You give Carr Gruden or the new coordinator, he's going to execute. I mean, he might not be the best quarterback in the league, and he's not super mobile, but you mentioned the offensive line of the Browns. And this Saints offensive line going into the season, I thought was bottom 5 and a lot of changing parts. And Parsons, Lawrence, Zimmer, immobile quarterback. I think the Saints come back to earth in a big way here.
Yeah, I think they do too. I do believe, though, two things can be right. I think they can show a little bit and then also be brought back down to earth to let them know that they really, really have not arrived. Speaking of arrival, the Ravens we expect to win this week because they played so well last week. but the Raiders are coming in there with Gardner Minshew. We're going to talk about whether or not that's going to be something that's conducive to them having a shot in the third segment of Locked On NFL. Look at that. Third segment of Locked On NFL. And then we're going to whip around the league to make sure we get some predictions from Matt Williams, NFL expert. We'll do all of that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Prize Picks. Man, Prize Pick is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers, man. You ain't got to worry about 20 million other people playing against you. No, it's just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win, man. To get that $50, you just got to do exactly what I just told you. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, third and final segment as we get ready to head into the weekend and see the slate of games here on Locked On NFL on the Barbershop. Make sure you check out Tyler Rowland in the first edition of the new Locked On NFL. He gives you a double shot of espresso every single morning. As soon as you wake up, just turn it on. I guarantee you're going to wake up, right, with Tyler. And I'm telling you, man, and you can come see me at lunchtime here in the Barbershop. All NFL talk using the local experts, people that know the team better than anybody, right here on Locked On NFL. Make sure you catch that on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. The Raiders, Gardner Minshew. I have been down this road before. He looks statistically on paper so good, and then you realize sometimes you're going to fall a little bit short. Let's see what your boy Q has to say when talking about their chances of winning on the road this week.
There's a lot of new with the Raiders. Gardner Minshew is the quarterback. No one's ever going to mistake him for an elite quarterback. He's a guy that's good enough to get it done, but is good enough to get it done good enough for this week, right? I mean, that's going to be the big question. Can him and Devontae continue to grow their chemistry, get on the same page? Brock Bowers, the rookie, he looks as advertised. Can he continue to grow with that chemistry? And, I talk about all these weapons. I talk about the quarterback and, these playmakers. Kevin, it all starts up front, man. If the offensive line cannot block, it's not going to matter what the weapons look like on the outside because Minshew won't have enough time to throw the ball. If the offensive line can't block, it doesn't matter because the running game is not going to get going. And for the Raiders to have success, they have to have a run game. They have to have some resemblance of a run game so they can open up everything else. Play action, pass, just even running the ball and keeping the Ravens or any other opponent on the sideline. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why they need to have a run game, but it's all going to start with the big boys up front. So the Raiders aren't 100% healthy.
Yeah, they're going to need everybody. You can probably need to give them a baseball bat and some brass knuckles too, even though Antonio Pierce is probably another one of those tough coaches, and they probably want to play the same way we were talking about the Bucs and the Lions. Guess who else is cut from that cloth? The Baltimore Ravens. And you think you're going to go in there and out tough? They put the definition in the word tough, and they got a better quarterback.
Yeah, and I was really concerned about the Ravens' offensive line heading into the season, and we saw how bad it was against the Chiefs. So I would be terrified to try to block Wilkins and Crosby right now. That being said, you talk about a coach that you give him an extra long week to get things right in the home opener and a 1:00 start with a West Coast team coming your way without a very good quarterback. I think the Ravens dominate this game. I mean, I just trust Harbaugh to no end here. Yeah,
I think they're going to dominate the game too. Both teams 0-1. Somebody's going to have 2 losses, and then somebody else is going to feel like their season is back on track. Now, I got to admit something. The Patriots and the Seahawks are 2 teams that I probably had in my bottom 25 percentile of the league. In fact, New England, I ain't going to even lie, man. I can't lie to y'all. I had New England like second from the bottom.
Oh, yeah, they were 31.
I ain't going to even lie to you. I'll sit here and I told you I'd lie on you, but I ain't going to lie to you, right? So here's the thing. New England, if they win this game, go to 2-0, get a chance to establish an identity. And now with Miami's uncertainty at the quarterback position, they might be, and the Jets have a chance to go 0-2. New England might be that team that we sit here and go, hey, man, what about us? But Seattle is the same way. So from that standpoint, it's an intriguing matchup. I want to hear what Corbin Smith has to say about Seattle's chances of going to Baltimore.
And Corbin, both teams enter this contest at 1-0, and they'd undoubtedly love to stay that way, no question about it. They're also looking to find their way after parting ways with legendary head coaches. But surprisingly, these teams are playing at a high level right now, and that arguably may not even be the top storyline in either of our universes right now. From a Seahawks perspective, as the visiting team this week, what are the biggest storylines coming out of the Emerald City?
Really, the biggest storyline coming out of that game for me going into week 2, will the real offense stand up? And what is the real offense for the Seattle Seahawks? Because the first half was an absolute nightmare. Literally 2 plays into the game, Geno Smith's getting his legs taken out from under him. He gets intercepted by Alex Singleton. They could not get out of their own way. And then in the second half, they come back from the halftime deficit. In the second half, ran for almost 100 yards. Geno Smith completed almost 80% of his passes.
Well, I don't know if he's going to complete 80% of his passes against a Gerard Mayo-led defense now, but 2 surprising teams, not necessarily surprising from the standpoint that they won the first game, but how they won the game and the way that they were able to find the toughness to win a close game when they needed to.
Yeah, as Corbin mentioned, Seattle started very, very slow. I mean, they gave up 2 safeties early in the game. I mean, it's hard to win when you give up 2 safeties. It's only happened 5 times in the league history. But I did think that the young coaching staff started to figure things out. Geno kind of got them on the right track. And it's another long road trip across country against a physical team. But I think Seattle's just a much more talented team than New England. I'm still in the 5-win Patriot, mold here.
Yeah, I think the Patriots win. The Patriots win. It might have us all perplexed a little bit because they went against a team that we all thought was pretty good in Cincinnati, especially since they shored up their offensive line. I'm just chalk that up as a bad week, some rust for Joe Burrow. I'm still going to give the Patriots the benefit of the doubt because they did something last week that I did not expect them to do. They won. Now, you have already said you believe that Seattle is going to win that game. We're going to take a quick trip around the rest of the National Football League and get your quick clips and quick thoughts on the rest of these games this weekend. Let's start out, man, in the NFC East, Washington and the New York Giants.
Ugh, ugly. I'm leaning towards the Giants. I trust them in the trenches a little bit more. I think that Washington defense is going to be maybe the worst in the league.
Yeah, I do think they're going to be worse than this. It's going to take them a time. It's going to take Dan Quinn a little bit of time to really get that right. How about the 49ers and the Vikings?
I'm impressed with the Vikings, but the 49ers are a juggernaut. I mean, I just think they're a really, really good football team right now, and I'll take the Niners.
Yep, I'm going to do the same. This might be the easiest one of the day. How about the Chargers and the Panthers?
Yeah, I can't get behind the Panthers at all right now. I think the Chargers might be a little overrated, but the Panthers are a distant 32nd in the power rankings right now.
All right, we're going through Saints, Cowboys, talking about Colts and Panthers. I'm going to let you answer this one. The team that I cover, Jacksonville hosting Cleveland.
I think the Browns are in a really bad spot. I think I like the Jags front against those offensive tackles. I think Deshaun Watson is officially a liability now, and I think it's a low-scoring game, but I like the Jags.
I do too. A few years ago, there was thoughts when Aaron Rodgers was going to leave Green Bay, he was going to end up in Nashville. Well, he is going to end up in Nashville this weekend, but he's playing for the Jets. Who do you think is going to win that one?
Leaning towards the Jets, but I was really uninspired by their defense. I think that rebounds, though. That's a good group, but it didn't show it in week 1.
Yeah, I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Will Levis to perform and play a lot better. Rams and Cardinals is intriguing because the Rams are all banged up and the Cardinals play a very, very physical brand of football. I think this might be one that could be an upset.
Me too. I really like Arizona's offense. I think their defense is really, really bad, but the Ramo line injuries, lack of Nakua, I like where Arizona's at.
I absolutely like them too. Here we go. This might be Bengals and Chiefs.
I think Cincinnati's in big trouble. They always start the season slow. Burrow's hand doesn't look right. Are you going to get Higgins? There's some things going on in Cincinnati that is not okay.
Yeah, and then they got DBs chirping about Worthy, who runs a 3.8 40. I wouldn't do that. I saw the kid score 2 touchdowns the other day. So Steelers and Broncos seems like a pretty decent game that's going to be all about physicality. I'm going to give Pittsburgh the advantage.
Me too. Denver, I did so much research on this, but Denver in September is like the worst place to play, right there with Miami, just because of the fatigue, the high air.
Yeah.
I just think Pittsburgh will be able to run, keep this thing close, play really good defense, and I didn't like what Knicks did at all in week 1.
Yeah, and I think T.J. Watt and Cam and all those dudes, they're too good for a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go get some of this Bears and Titans, man.
Texans blow them out.
Yeah.
Rewind all that. I'm sorry. I think Houston's a really good team. I think they destroyed.
Yeah, man. They're another team I don't think a rookie quarterback is going to beat, especially this early in the season. And finally, Falcons versus the Eagles. I am super, super impressed with the Eagles. The Eagles should, in my opinion, build everything around Saquon Barkley. Mm-hmm. And then once they soften up the team, then start carving them up with number 6 and number 11.
Yeah, I don't know that this one's going to be close either. The way Cousins played and his immobility is going to be a problem on the road in Philadelphia.
It is going to be a problem, man. I tell you what is not a problem. What is not a problem is joining us every single Friday. Matt Williamson, the expert, will be here one day, man. I can't wait till we start getting to the draft. I know these games are going on, but me and Matt, we're going to have to do 2-hour podcasts when it comes to talking about the draft, man, because we just won't be stopped. All right. Every single day here on Locked On NFL, make sure you check out Tyler Rowland early. And then check Tony Wiggins out up here in the barbershop every single day here on Locked On NFL. We give it to you with the local experts. We listen to the clips, and we have great, great guests. Enjoy football this weekend. Y'all keep it safe. We will see you all then.